Welcome to another new interview in a series of video podcasts about the new Encyclopedia of Seventh-day Adventists online. The Encyclopedia, or the ESDA, was released on July 1st, and it is the Adventist Church's first online reference work. It features thousands of articles from around the world on a variety of topics, including articles on Adventist missionaries, evangelists, institutions, beliefs, and more. If you haven't checked the ESDA website yet, please do so at encyclopedia.adventist.org and browse the thousands of articles and photographs and an increasing number of videos. Our guests today are the encyclopedia editors for the Inter-European Division, and we're delighted to welcome Dr. Stefan Hirschler, Dean of the School of Theology at Friedensau Adventist University in Germany, and Chigamezi Wogu, who is Research Associate at the Institute of Adventist Studies, also at Friedensau Adventist University, and they have together edited all the entries for the Inter-European Division and contributed superbly to the Encyclopedia project. Stefan, welcome, and thank you for agreeing to this interview today. Chigamezi, welcome to you too.
Thank you very much. Such a pleasure to be with you tonight.
Thank you as well. It's a pleasure from my side.
The pleasure is ours, and indeed I may tell our viewers that one of the side benefits of this project has been the way that Dragoslava Santrak and myself and others in the Encyclopedia main office have got to know all kinds of Adventist scholars, or got to know them better, and that goes for Stefan and Chigamezi for sure. Tell us something about your role in the ESDA project. What has been the most rewarding part of your job, and what's been the hardest part of your job?
I'll start with the role. As a regional editor, of course, there are so many things to do. Well, what I liked most was improving articles. That is not to say that the articles were bad. Some were good, some were so-so. But I really enjoy, as a scholar, looking at articles and bringing them to a stage, to a level that is appealing, that is full of message, and that is what I like very much. Of course, we also had to decide when can this be uploaded. So articles going back and forth, a second round, sometimes a third round. Others have to be motivated to go over it again. That's tedious work. But of course, we were a team with many others, and we enjoyed helping them to give their best. And of course, I could have never done this without Chigamezi Wogu, who did much of the communication. So I'll hand over to him.
Thank you, Stefan. My role as a research associate, well, in this project was to manage. So I was the project manager, and that involved lots of communication between authors and editors and reviewers, as well as some editing roles, you know. As Stefan has said, I manage this project here in some parts of Europe. The most rewarding part of the job as a manager is when I see that the work put into writing, editing, reviewing of an article is done. So when this work is done, when I see a finished part, or when I see a finished article, whether I wrote it or not, I just feel fulfilled, you know. The hardest part of the job, it has been just sometimes you're researching, or you need to get an information for an author, and you're not able to get it, you know, or you're not able to pass through a block, a block of research data or historical data, just because you don't understand that language. Take, for example, Romanian, you know. So it's been rewarding, but it's also been difficult. Thank you.
Well, may I add that Chigamezi, he didn't mention that, but he wrote many articles himself. And I was so amazed because, you know, I mean, he didn't grow up in this region of the world, but he wrote it better than some of us could have done. So it's also very enjoyable to write.
Thank you.
Both of you are church historians and scholars. Tell us why you think the Encyclopedia of Seventh-day Adventists is significant for Adventist scholarship.
Well, in fact, never before has such a massive project been done that involves a global range of authors and such a diversity. I mean, looking back into the history of large undertakings like the old encyclopedia, this was very much a product of Westerners, perhaps Americans, perhaps some Europeans. That was it. Now we have authors from all continents, probably not yet from all countries, but 150, I guess. I mean, it's really a new phase in Adventist scholarship.
Yes, for me, I think the ESDA is a game changer in mission history. There are various facets of Adventist mission history that will be laid bare and accessible for researchers. So one area in mission history that has not been touched very much is the contribution of local or indigenous workers of Adventist mission. So until now, Adventist mission history has focused on the big names, the big missionaries, but with ESDA, key lay members, pioneer Adventists in various countries will come to be known as well as their contributions.
It's an interesting point you make there, Chigumezi, and a really good one, I think. In so many ways, Adventist historiography is a little bit behind mainstream historiography, and mission history in the last, well, 10 years has started to be strongly emphasizing the role of indigenous leaders, and in fact shows that the missionaries relied on their own local converts who became missionaries themselves, maybe not going across the seas, but breaking new paths into different cultures, even within the territory that they were based. So I think it's exciting to think that Adventist mission historiography is starting to have that same kind of emphasis that we've seen in wider mission historiography. Whereas, would you agree, and I'd ask Stefan as well, has there been a tendency for Adventist mission history really to be about just a few great white people?
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, mission history used to be focused on missionaries, later on even the shortcomings of missionaries, but now we see that mission history is embedded in the history of the church at large, and the church is not just a few pioneers, it's everyone. It's everyone who is participating in the tasks of the church, and not only those who cross cultures.
Chigumezi, do you?
Yes, I agree. I just want to take a practical example. So I'm from Nigeria, and in Nigeria, there are just three big names that you would normally hear when it comes to mission history, the Adventist mission history in Nigeria. I know that we are talking about that have been doing research in Europe, but I wanted to give a practical example. So those three names are David Babcock, Clifford,
Jesse
Clifford, and John Hyde. But you will not hear of the indigenous missionaries who helped them, or who got them the Adventist message before they came, to Nigeria. So you have names like Oyeniyi, or names like Benjamin Tikili, and you get the feeling when you see these names as you do research. I have been doing research in Adventist mission history in Nigeria. You get the feeling, what was wrong? Why would people keep repeating a kind of historiography without even going further? Perhaps the problem was access to documents, access to sources, and not doing in-depth research is also a problem. But perhaps access to sources was a problem. Yeah.
I think also, though, it is the mindset. It's the mindset that it's only these people.
Yeah.
And of course, it doesn't take much thought to realize that it can't only have been those individuals. And of course, we wouldn't want to understate the contribution of those individuals who often gave decades of their lives working in a country that, you know, they'd never heard of, a very alien culture, but they couldn't have done it by themselves. And those two names you mentioned, if we don't have articles on them in the encyclopedia at the time this video podcast goes live, we trust that there will be articles on them coming soon. But thank you for those good points, which I think, as I say, connect Adventist historiography to wider church and mission history.
Yeah, I must say now that we are talking about this topic of diversity and acknowledging the contribution of various people, especially those whose stories are not so well known to many of us. I have to say that we take a special pride that we have nearly 1,000 authors contributing articles to the encyclopedia. Authors of various ethnicities from almost every region of the world. So this is one great asset of the new encyclopedia. Would you tell us something about your authors and what kind of materials and sources they consulted in writing articles for your division?
Yes, so our authors included scholars, so historians, but as well pastors, church administrators, so presidents and secretaries of conferences and unions, as well as hobby historians and students as well. You know, we have this wide range of individuals submitting, doing research and trying to improve or try to contribute to the encyclopedia project. So it was not just only scholars, it was not just historians, but it was wide range of individuals who contributed, men and women as well.
I think our viewers will appreciate that the encyclopedia is not only for scholars and historians, but it's for everyone who loves history and wants to learn more about the Adventist Church. And it's good to know that various kinds of people can contribute to the encyclopedia, from students and lay members with an interest in history to historical scholars and academicians. So this is wonderful. Perhaps you could tell us now what story from the encyclopedia has moved you or maybe surprised you?
Well, let me start. A story that moved me a lot is the story of a young man who was 18 years old when he was sent as a missionary to the then German East Africa, now Tanzania. His name is Ernst Kotz. He was a student at this place where I now teach. And he was one of the very early missionaries. The first missionaries had been sent to Tanzania in 1903. He was sent there in 1905. And he was among the first group of those who were properly prepared in the sense of learning some Swahili, which was the trade language at the time, and getting some courses about how to live in other countries. I mean, we have to remember most people in those countries of Europe didn't know any other language. Now they were sent to a foreign continent. This was just a massive undertaking. It was adventurous, but it was also very dangerous. Yes. So this 18-year-old who, well, at the age of my youngest son, I just wondered, became a crucial missionary in the sense that he translated the New Testament into the language of the Pare people, or Asu, as they are called. So he's the first Adventist translator of the Bible into a new language. And imagine, he was 18 when he left. So at the age of 21, 22, he did this work of translating the New Testament. Can you imagine?
Yes.
Now, God,
and do you have a story you'd like to share, Chigameze?
Yeah,
What
sure.
moved you?
Thank you, Stefan, for sharing the story of N. Scott's. For me, all stories of missionaries touch me, because the stories of missionaries, you get stories of missionaries dying in the field, losing loved ones, sacrificing their lives. But the story of Julius and Nellie Bircher, as well as that of David and Virginia Delheuve, are astounding. So Julius and Nellie Bircher worked as teachers and missionaries. Julius himself worked as an administrator for the Seventh-day Adventist Church in the United States, Germany, Switzerland, and what was then known as the Russian Empire. David and Virginia Delheuve were pioneer missionaries. So David himself was mission administrator and translator into this Rwanda, Burundi, and Congo. Now the lives of Julius and Nellie Bircher portray a kind of stark commitment of a husband and wife who would go from the United States to Europe just to make sure that people from their continent would receive the gospel, would receive the message of the Seventh-day Adventists. And through thick and thin in mission abroad, their labors as pioneer missionaries contributed to the founding years of Seventh-day Adventism in Germany and in some cities in Switzerland. I've mentioned that. So immediately, one thing fascinating is that immediately Bircher came to Europe in Hamburg, he joined Jakob Esberger and Ludwig Conradi in organizing several evangelistic series. So he immediately came, he didn't just wait, okay, I want to wait to understand the culture or anything. He just, he started doing mission. As an administrator himself, he had this motivation and zeal that helped propel the Adventist message in Germany and in Switzerland. So Bircher himself served as the first president of the newly organized Swiss-German mission. He organized several churches. He conducted public and personal evangelism while his wife worked as a matron in the Basel and Glanz sanitariums.
And Bircher, I think, is interesting, partly because, as you say, he comes to Germany. He's German American.
Yeah.
And so many Adventist missionaries, at least going from Europe, to Europe from America, were actually of a different ethnicity. Their family had emigrated, they had emigrated when they were young, and they go back as missionaries. And I think nobody had really picked up on this. It's one of the things that's becoming apparent through the work of the Encyclopedia. The church really relied. This is my impression. I wonder what you think. That the church really relied on these people who were almost amphibians, in that they could work in two different environments, two different cultures at once. And I think the success in Europe probably reflects that partly. What do you think? And then also Stefan may have a perspective.
Yeah, I was sharing with Stefan the other day. Well, not the other day, maybe a few months ago, that the Adventist work in Europe wouldn't have been successful without American Europeans or European Americans, whatever it is, those amphibians, those people. So if you start from Tchaikovsky to Conradi to Bircher, all of them had gone to the US. And then all of a sudden they got to know this message, this fascinating apocalyptic message, and they were like, no, I have to go back home, Even Jacob Klein, who was a foremost pioneer missionary, no, I really have to go back home. I really need to tell my people about this. And without them, I believe, and this is a research I want to do perhaps in the future, without them, I think that Adventism wouldn't have been established in Europe. I don't know what you think, Stefan.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, crossing cultures was something that happened very, very early, much earlier than we sometimes think. In Adventist history, crossing and connecting cultures what was part of the DNA from almost the beginning.
I think that's really well put. And the encyclopedia hopefully follows in that, follows in the footprints of that, in connecting different scholars, different authors. There's so much more we could talk about, and I'd suggest that we probably get you back for another video podcast in the near future, because there's so much more we could talk about. But we really appreciate your making the time to be with us. Thank you, Dr. Stefan Hirschler, and thank you, Chigamezi Wogu, who are both based at the Encyclopedia office at Friedensau Adventist University in Germany. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Those, again, were the editors for the Inter-European Division. I was encouraged by the stories they shared, and indeed new ideas have occurred to me just talking to them. I think you will find the same thing if you go to the encyclopedia and start reading articles on the church in Europe and on the church in European colonies in Africa, to which, of course, some of the missionaries we were talking about went. But then, as we also heard, they were very soon assisted by faithful local people as well. So there's much for you to discover in the encyclopedia, and of course, not only about the Inter-European Division or Africa, but about the whole world. You can find out more about the ESDA articles on Europe, by the way, by following the ESDA Inter-European Division team. They are on Twitter. Their handle is @EUDESDA Regional. Again, that's @EUDSDA Regional. So follow them, you'll find out even more. And go to the Encyclopedia of Seventh-day Adventists online at encyclopedia.adventist.org. Read the articles on Ernst Kurtz, on Julius and Nellie Bircher, on David and Virginie de Louva, and so many others. Be inspired. Thanks for being with us.